5 things I hate about my Mercedes. We made it. The first thing I hate about it is obviously it's an automatic. This thing doesn't come in a manual transmission. Let's get in, let me show you. I mean, it's a good automatic transmission, but it's still an auto. You know what I'm talking about? It's not that manual. And that's probably like my biggest gripe when it comes to this car. Now, don't get me wrong, the transmission works great. It shifts fine, it shifts smooth, it's got sport mode, and it makes it a little bit more aggressive whenever you want to go. But still, it comes with its pitfalls. Like when you're shifting down, you can't shift down fast enough. In a manual transmission, if you're coming up on a tight corner and you want to shift from 4th to 2nd, you can easily do that. You can't do that with this kind of automatic transmission. Yes, you have the paddle shifters that work pretty well, but you can only shift so fast. Like with the paddle shifters, when I click up a gear, it takes a second for it to actually shift, and it feels like it's not me actually shifting. I'm just like persuading the car to do what I want. So overall, for my number 1, it's definitely going to go to the automatic transmission. I do not like that in this car. Number 2 is traction control. Oh my goodness. Traction control in German cars is like something else. First of all, when traction control is on and you don't mess with anything, it cuts in everywhere. Like just trying to accelerate at a normal speed, it cuts on. And if I'm trying to turn and I give it a little bit of gas, it cuts on. And even when you turn it off, it still cuts on. So turning off traction control is kind of just like a suggestion. Granted, when you do turn it off, you can get the back end out just a little bit further, but it's still an inconvenience because I want to turn traction control all the way off. There is a way around this, but to do that, it's called Dyno Mode. If you want to take off traction control completely, you can put it in Dyno Mode, and that shuts off everything. So you don't have a limited slip anymore, you don't have ABS, you don't have any traction control, and it honestly feels terrible when you try to drive it in that. Sometimes when I'm gassing it from a red light, the traction control light can be on until I hit like 70 miles an hour. And yes, this car makes some pretty good horsepower. It's about 400 horsepower, but still it shouldn't be cutting on for that long. Look, I'm gonna turn off traction control and see if it comes back on. It came on. The third thing I hate about the Mercedes is obviously the cost, and not the cost of the car and maintenance. That's really not that bad, but the cost of parts. So I just hit a deer and I damaged my hood, my front fender, and my headlight. And to replace those 3 things was about $2,000. The hood was about $900 to $1,000. The headlight was $1,300 to fix. $1,300 for one headlight. Ridiculous. And then I had to get the front quarter panel, and that was about $150, which wasn't bad at all. But if you saw my previous videos, you can see that I'm painting everything and doing everything myself, and that's saving me some money, but still, it's so ridiculous when it comes to the price on parts for the Mercedes. Number 4 on the list is definitely going to be the lack of aftermarket support. I mean, if you're a car guy, I don't know if this is the car for you. I thought I could do it because I had my BMW, but that was a 335i, and there's a bunch of parts for it. But this thing is like a whole different caliber. A basic tune or like a stock map on this car is pretty hard to get. Even if you do an intake exhaust, just to get the tune, you have to get a whole new ECU, and that alone is well over $1,000. And if you ended up going with the new ECU for this car and you spent that $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever it costs, the horsepower gains you're going to be getting from it is only about like 20 horsepower, which is ridiculous. There's no body kits when it comes to the E-Class. You can't get over fenders, you can't get side skirts. You might be able to find like a diffuser and a front splitter or something like that, but to get one of those on the car is probably going to be some eBay special thing, and it's like suits all cars. I'm sure if you actually wanted to mod this thing out, you could, but it's going to take a lot of work, and you're probably going to have to make everything from scratch. Last on the list is the overall sense of the car and the speed limiter that they put on the Mercedes. I don't know if you guys know this, but Mercedes caps you at 130 when it comes to having like a speed limit on the car. If you shift it all the way to 7th gear and you're flooring it, The fastest you can go is 130 miles an hour. I know it might seem like, why does that even matter? It kind of matters. I mean, when it comes to this car, it doesn't have like a lot of character. And so when you're speeding down the road, you got a nice open stretch and you decide to gas it, it's kind of annoying when it limits you and you just want to see how fast it can go. At least that's how I am. But the overall feel of the car, it's pretty good, but it's kind of just like a commuter car, and you can feel that whenever you're driving it. Taking it down the back roads, it's quick and it's definitely fast, but you just don't have that solid connection. You can't really feel the speed like you're in a Miata, you know? Like if you're in something like that, it's a little bit smaller, it has a little bit more character. Even though it's slower, you can still have a lot more fun with it. Like when you're driving down the highway, 90 miles an hour pretty much feels like 50 miles an hour in this car. Yes, that could be a good thing if you're going on road trips and you just want a commuter, but I don't want that. I want something that makes me smile even when I'm going 45 miles an hour. And like I said, yes, it makes 400 horsepower and it's quick, but there's just no drama to it. You push the pedal down and it goes. It throws you back in your seat, which is cool, but there's just no spark when it comes to it. I will say this thing is loud though. But overall, this really is a good car. It's to be honest, it's one of my favorite cars I've ever owned. After selling the 335i, I wanted to get something a little bit more commutable and something a little less rowdy. But now that I have that, I don't really want it anymore. If I had the option to keep this car and get another one, I definitely would. But I want to be able to have a drift car and another fun car, and this is just taking up too much space for me to do that. So if you're looking at picking up one of these cars, I would highly recommend it as long as you have the right intentions when it comes to it. If you want something to just drive you around from day to day and have a little bit of fun with and have a little bit of speed, yeah, this thing can do it. I mean, it's fast, it's fun, it's really comfortable, and it's reliable, relatively. But it's just not the kind of sauce that I'm looking for right now in my life, so I think we might have to look elsewhere. But anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one.